Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Farah Hani, and I am one of the representatives of Group 2, which our group will be presenting about the contributions of Muslim scholars in building civilization. This presentation will be covering 4 aspects, which is the introduction, the Islamic perspective on building civilizations, the contributions of Muslim scholars, and finally the conclusion.
Alright everyone, so before we go further into how or what are the contribution of Muslim scholars in building civilization, let me share about what is actually civilization. So, actually civilization is easier to describe than define, where scholars have often described civilization as a set of attributes certain societies, like agriculture, writing, cities, government, complex religion, and many more. So, other than that, the term civilization is also used to describe societies that are urbanized and hierarchical. So, this is civilization as general. Let us refer to what is said by the encyclopedia by the National Geographic Societies. It is stated that the word civilization actually related to the Latin word, which is civitas, and also known as city. So fundamentally, civilization can be referred to the society that made up of cities. So that is the literal meaning of the civilization. But conceptually, civilization can be referred to a complex human society which is usually made up of different cities with certain cultural and technological development. So that is how the West view what is civilization. Let us see how Ibn Khaldun or the Muslim view what is civilization. So according to him, civilization was an eternal conflict between the Bedouin type and the city type dweller, or also known as the desert versus the town. So according to Ibn Khaldun, the Bedouin type represented the principle of disorder and restlessness, where these people live nomadic way, where they move from one place to another place based on the resources that they have, rather than the city dweller that represented an idea of orderly behavior, where they live permanently in the city. So this actually due to the social cohesion, or also mentioned by the Ibn Khaldun, the concept of asabiyah. So this value actually one of the factors that contribute in the development of the development of the society. So in the Islamic perspective, it is not merely because of the cultural and the technological development, but also the social cohesion possessed by every single people of the society that have the eagerness to contribute to the advancement of their society, which then will lead to a civilization. So that is what civilization is made up of.
These are the characteristics that differentiate Islamic civilization from other civilizations. The first one is Tawheed. It is characterized by the willingness to submit to God's will while also serving the needs of others. The recognition of the superiority of God led to people's liberation from the oppression of royalty and religious leaders. The second one is humanitarian and universality. The Islamic civilization was the first to include the entire human race and to be universally recognized. It manifested the equality of all people regardless of their ancestry, race, or skin color, as they are all the same in the eyes of Allah. The third one is well-balanced civilization. In Islamic civilization, a balance between the material and spiritual aspects of life is emphasized, which has not separated this world from the hereafter. This moderation is fundamental to Islamic thought and civilization, which allows no neglect and excess. And the last one is tolerance towards people of other religions like Christians and Jews. The tolerance between diverse people and beliefs led to a harmonious community and civilization.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aiman, and I will continue the discussion on the topic of knowledge in the Islamic civilization. So, when we talk about Islamic perspective of building civilization, we need to understand that Islam don't just see civilization as limited to the material aspects. The finances, the buildings, the infrastructure, the facilities, there is a huge emphasis on the hadara, the non-material aspects that makes a civilization complete. The people and their values and their principles and their ethics and what they learn and they know. And that is why knowledge is so heavily emphasized in Islamic civilization. And we can see how deeply knowledge is valued in the Islamic civilization by the study of classification of knowledge by Imam al-Ghazali, to the point where you have all of these various classifications of knowledge to describe how deep and varied and wide knowledge is. And this complex understanding and appreciation for knowledge within a society creates a knowledge-based civilization.
As Islam recognized the importance of knowledge, the knowledge itself must be preserved to prevent it from fading away, to prevent it to fall in the wrong hand. So how Islam preserve this knowledge? So technically, there are many ways in preserving knowledge. For example, how Islam preserve the knowledge from the Quran is by memorizing and by writing. So Quran, the content of the Quran itself, have been written down, passed down from generation to generation. In other perspective, according to Hadrat Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, the only way of preserving the knowledge is to keep it away from unworthy people. Because if the knowledge passed to the people who are unworthy of it, the people of knowledge will become disgraced and downtrodden. So hence it is important for scholars to recognize the worth of other people in order to pass down the knowledge. For example, like Imam Malik, who recognized the potential and the worth of Imam Ash-Shafi'i, then he proceed to teach him about the Kitab Al-Muwatta. So this is how Islam preserve the knowledge.
One important discipline in which Muslim scholars have contributed a lot is mathematics. Mathematics is usually referred to the study of numbers, but it's actually much larger than that. It is the study of logic, systems, and patterns. And the reason why Muslim scholars have contributed a lot to this discipline is because there is a lot of emphasis in the Quran that we should look and study all these patterns in the universe, because within them we can find the truth of the revelation. The 53rd ayah of Surah Al-Fusilat mentioned this when Allah says that we will show you our patterns in the universe and in yourselves until you are convinced that the revelation is the truth. And why mathematics, contribution in mathematics contributes a lot in civilization is that mathematics is often the fundamental building blocks to a complex system, be it in IT or even in subjects that you may not realize, like biology, like how the golden ratio keeps on appearing again and again in nature, such as in the spirals of a sunflower. And this is why mathematics is so important in building civilization. When we are discussing the Muslim scholars' contributions to mathematics, we cannot ignore the zero and decimal system brought to us by Al-Khwarizmi. Prior to this, people used to calculate in the Jumal system. It's similar to the Roman numeral system in which particular letters describe particular numbers. So the numbers are very non-intuitive and it's very hard to perform complex calculations. What Al-Khwarizmi did was that he introduces this system of base 10 as well as the number 0, in which you have a place value system. So you only have 10 digits, 10 symbols, and depending on which place the symbols are in, it modifies the values of those digits. And he also added the number 0 to signify valueless digit. So what he creates here is a limitless system that can describe number of any size no matter how big. And this paves the way to other expansions in numbers in mathematics, such as the decimal fraction by Al-Uqlidisi later. And of course, if you think of our world now, imagine how can you do complex calculations like calculus or algebra by using that Jamal system? It's near impossible. I don't think that you can even create computers. So this system of base 10 and this system of place value systems has contributed a lot in the building of civilization in all areas of knowledge. Another significant contribution by Al-Khwarizmi in the study of mathematics is the branch of algebra. He developed this concept of substituting a place for an unknown in a calculation. Meaning, if you're calculating something and you have a value that you don't know what the value is, then you can substitute something else for the purpose of calculation. Nowadays, we tend to use symbols or letters like X or beta or alpha, but back then he used words, but it still has the same concept. In fact, the term algebra comes from the Arabic term that he used for his system called al-jabr. And this allows for a calculation in events where values are unknown. And this is a crucial component for more complex mathematical concepts like calculus or even imaginary numbers, which technically do not exist, which is why it's called imaginary. All of these calculations are only possible from the developments of algebra by Al-Khwarizmi. Muslim scholars also heavily contributed in the study of astronomy. The study of planetary objects was seen as a branch of mathematics in the past because underlying it is still a study of complex systems and patterns. And this study was also encouraged in the Quran by many verses that talks about the planetary systems. For example, in Surah Ibrahim in the 33rd verse, Allah said, "For you, Allah subjected the sun and the moon, both diligently pursuing their courses, and for you, He subjected night and the day." And in a different surah, in Surah Ar-Rahman in the 5th verse, Allah said, "The sun and moon are subjected to calculations." So we can see how Allah encourages us to study planetary objects and their systems and the systems behind it. One of the primary contributions of Muslim scholars in the field of astronomy is the Zich, or the astronomical table. And this was first created by Al-Khwarizmi when he wanted to correct Ptolemy's geocentric astronomical theory. Ptolemy believes that our planetary system revolves around the Earth. And so Al-Khwarizmi created this table to correct that. And even though he's the first person who created it, this table was actually developed further by many other Muslim scholars succeeding him. And this provides the means for calculating positions of celestial bodies, and it marks the beginning of empirical verification in astronomy. And of course, you cannot study astronomy without having the right equipments. This is why Muslim scholars spend a lot of time working on these equipments. For example, they improved sundials and astrolabes. And what I find most unique about this improvement is that it is directly inspired by religion, because they added features to their sundials and astrolabes to add features that can calculate prayer times and the means to find the direction of the Qibla. In fact, because the prayer time and directions of Qibla will change depending on where you are, they also made it so you can calibrate it depending on your geographical location for timekeeping and other astronomical functions. And of course, they also built very large observatories to study and keep track of movements of celestial bodies.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Farah Hani binti Faizul, matric number 2112376, and I will be presenting about the contributions of Muslim scholars in art and architecture. Moving on to one of the Muslim scholars that has contributed in arts is Ibn Muqlah, or his full name is Abu Ali Muhammad Ibn Ali Ibn Muqlah, and he is mostly known as the foremost calligrapher of the Abbasid age, and he is also the reputed inventor of the first cursive style of Arabic lettering, the Nas script, which replaced the angular Kufic as the standard of Islamic calligraphy. And the Nas script is basically one of the first scripts of Islamic calligraphy to develop, and it is mostly commonly used in writing administrative documents and also in the transcription of books. Other than that, Ibn Muqlah also invented scripts such as Tawqi and the more elegant Thuluth. And one of the reasons why calligraphy has impacted our civilization as a whole is because calligraphy offers an important channel for the appreciation of traditional culture and for arts education. And in this context, Arabic calligraphy had a great impact in the improvement of arts all over the world, as it influenced cultures such as Andalusia and Spain, and it is also one of the main influence in multiple art styles such as the Baroque and Rococo art styles in Europe. In addition, Ibn Muqlah also introduced the rounded forms and curved letters, curved lines that in later styles were refined to give Arabic writing the flowing beauty that it is renowned as. So moving on to one of the Muslim scholars that has contributed in architecture is Al-ATTAS, or his full name is Said Muhammad Al-Naqib bin Ali Al-ATTAS, which he is actually a Malaysian Muslim philosopher, but he has also contributed in architecture itself. Now, one of his biggest contributions in Malaysia can be seen through the establishment of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, or ISTAC, in Malaysia, which he designed the floor plan, where the floor plan was at first a fusion process in which Islam, Malay, Moorish, Spanish, Romano-Syrian, Greek-Arabian, aesthetic, technology, and North African elements were combined to form a new autonomous style, which in turn provided the stimulus for other artistic directions in Malaysia. And one of the reason why ISAC is so important in civilization in Malaysia is because it benefits a lot of students in an educational aspect, such as the ISAC is an institution of postgraduates teaching and research established in 1987 by the International Islamic University Malaysia. And this institution was officially opened in 1991 by the Prime Minister of Malaysia himself as a research and postgraduate institution that offers specialized programs of studies and conduct courses, training and supervision leading to either master's degree or doctorate level qualifications in 3 main fields, which are Islamic thought, Islamic science, and Islamic civilization. Now, how does this impact Malaysian civilization as a whole? Well, the reason why it impacts this establishment is imperative is because it offers higher education on another level. Because of this institute, it provides graduates to be able to compete on an international level, and it also positively affects civilization in Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Rozman, and now I'm going to continue our discussion of Muslim contribution in the field of chemistry. So, chemistry is the study of science revolving around matter and studying their properties and reaction to other substances to create a new form of element. There are many examples of chemistry-related situations in human life, such as food digestion, hygiene, production of medicine, and food preservative. This proves that chemistry plays a big role in building world civilization. In Islam, there are a few well-known scholars for their contribution to the chemistry field, such as Jabir ibn Hayyan, Al-Razi, Al-Kindi, and Ibn Sina. Their discovery has become the stepping stone towards human civilization, which are still relevant to this day. Jabir ibn Hayyan, or also known as Geber, is a sort of a druggist, which gave him the access to learn and conduct experiments about chemistry. He is given the title Father of Chemistry as his discovery has provided a convenience for people. Jabir has devised and perfected many chemical processes such as distillation, crystallization, sublimation, amalgamation, and filtration. These funds are further used in today's industry. Distillation is the process of purifying a compound by heating and cooling to terminate non-volatile solid. This is further adapted by humans in producing methanol, purifying drinking water, and recycling oil and solvents by removing the contaminants which are to be disposed of. In countries with insufficient clean water supply, seawater is taken to undergo distillation and later used as drinking water for preparation and for general human consumption. Next, the conversion from solid state to gaseous state is known as sublimation. This technique is used today to preserve food through freeze drying and to import pharmaceutical material by storing it in a vessel after removing water from the material, which will ease the process of shipping across the country. Furthermore, Jabir ibn Hayyan also managed to find procedure to make nitric acid, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, sulfides of mercury, and etc., each having their uses today. Nitric acid is widely used in the production of fertilizer by reducing the pH level and freeing nitrogen, which will help supporting plant growth. It is also used to refine noble metals, mix plastic and explosive. Meanwhile, Geber's invention, alembic, which aids in conducting distillation easy and efficient, have come to another good discovery of hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid that is found in salt are used in house cleaning products as well as an acidifier to lighten the flavors and reduce polish of food. Other Muslim contributions in chemistry includes extraction of metal from their ores, cloth dyeing, study on how to prevent rusting and production of perfumes from plants and flowers.
In the field of medicine, there are many scholars who actually contributed in building the civilization. The first, most well-known one is Ibn Sina. Ibn Sina actually introduced the surgical treatment method in saving life. He also wrote books such as the Canon of Medicine as well as Kitab Shifa, who actually been used by the School of Medicine in the European up until today. Other than him, scholars such as Ar-Razi, who also known as a pioneer in field of psychology, he introduced a separate ward for patients who are mentally ill. He also wrote about the treatise on smallpox and measles, who actually been used. He wrote have been utilized by the people recently in combating the COVID-19 situation. So see how actually the contribution of these scholars, although it was bad in the past, but still relevant up until today. And this is how actually Muslim scholars contributed in building up our civilization.
Now we'll move into the philosophy contribution. As we know, the first ayat of the Quran revealed and urged mankind to read and seek knowledge. Studying philosophy helps improve someone's problem-solving abilities. One will then be able to analyze concepts, definitions, and problems properly. The main branches of philosophy are metaphysics, to discuss about the nature of the universe; epistemology, which refers to the origin of knowledge; axiology, considers the study of principles and values; and logic, to focus on reasoning. This field of study will expand human ability to manage their ideas and to deal with question of value. Said Muhammad Al-ATTAS is a well-known Muslim philosopher. He wrote the book of Islam and Secularism, in which he mentioned about Islamization of knowledge. This is to remove Western culture and civilization from education to be replaced with Islamic concepts, frameworks, and values. This philosophy and methodology of education have one goal, which is Islamization of the God, body, and soul. He believed that modern science view things as mere things with no greater meaning, downsizing the importance to study about the world's phenomena. Although material benefits are gained from this, humans will become prone to destroy their nature. Studying a subject materially without spiritual input will have killed humans' feeling of humility toward Allah, as they have come to think that He and the Creator are standing on the same level. This idea of Al-ATTAS has resulted in the existence of Islamic-based university in current days. These universities include an Islamic perspective in most subjects so that students will have the realization that everything in the world is related to Islam and these two should not be separated. They will also be exposed to how Islam views the world and how it is related to people's life. Hence, young graduates will be able to enter life within Islam regulation. That's all from me.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ulya Mufidah binti Amir Hamzah and my metric number is 2115864. And today I'll be presenting on Muslim scholars' contribution, specifically Ibn al-Haytham's contribution to the field of physics. So, Islamic civilization contributed to nearly all aspects of human life, and that includes the knowledge of physics. The Greeks focused on only the philosophy of natural sciences, which is physics, without resorting to experimentation, unlike the Muslim scholars. Ibn al-Haytham is one of the most brilliant physicists who is referred to as the father of modern optics. He has written more than 200 works on physics, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy, and his most significant contributions to the field of physics is the optical theory. The optical theory explained a variety of optical phenomena in his book Kitab al-Manazir that is later translated to Latin and greatly impacted the Europeans' knowledge. He founded the theory of visual perception, which is the ability to perceive our surroundings through the light that enters our eyes. like the evaluation of the size, the distance, and the shape of the viewed object. This theory later becomes a crucial finding that contributes to the development of the human consciousness of the visual world. Furthermore, Ibn al-Haytham published theories on refraction, reflection, binocular vision, and focusing with lenses, which is practically what we learn in school now. The spectacles, he was the one that invented it for people with visual impairment. He also invented the camera obscura, which is the earliest version of the modern digital camera. Not only that, but he also discovered that rainbows are due to refraction of sunlight by rainbows, not reflection, as Aristotle assumed. These findings stress the significance of experimentation to discover knowledge rather than assumption. And following, Ibn al-Haytham also founded the law of inertia and the concept of momentum. In contrast to Aristotle's view, Ibn al-Haytham argues that a body moves constantly unless an external force stops it or changes its direction of motion. Essentially, Newton's law of inertia was outlined in this phrase. And lastly, he also founded the concept of momentum when he criticized the Aristotelian theory of motion. This concept was formulated into a mathematical form centuries later by Newton and became part of Newton's second law. These concepts help us to understand the natural sciences that happen in our daily life and are significant for human developments. Next, the Muslim contribution to the academic institution is the establishment of Baitul al-Hikmah, or the House of Wisdom. Bait al-Hikmah was established by Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid and his son Al-Ma'mun, located in Baghdad. The House of Wisdom, which was formerly a large private library, increased in use and turned into a public academy under Al-Ma'mun's rule, and it became a center of learning during the 8th and 9th centuries. It became a dedicated space for the scholarship and connected many different people and empires because of its educational and research components. Al-Ma'mun even made an effort to recruit famous scholars such as Al-Khwarizmi and Al-Batani to come to the House of Wisdom. It is also due to its strategic area where it becomes the crossroads linking Asia, Africa, and Europe. The Muslims, Christians, and Jews all collaborated and worked peacefully there. The main activity of the House of Wisdom was the translation of ideas and wisdom from around the world, like Greece, India, China, and Persia, which were translated into Arabic, contributing to further advances in Islamic civilizations. And it creates a comprehensive library that contained all of the knowledge gained throughout this movement. The achievement of translation revealed that prehistoric Greek ideas can be developed beyond philosophy. It helped with the advancement of knowledge in various fields as they discovered new knowledge, correcting or adding to the work of the ancient authors. Lastly, due to the pursuit of knowledge, Muslim was also the first one to establish a university, which is the University of Al-Qawariyin. It is acknowledged by Guinness World Record and UNESCO that it is the oldest university in the world. It was only years later the West then catch up to the world's development and knowledge and built its own notable universities.
So in order to conclude our presentation, I will be talking about the conclusion. So, in conclusion, the contributions made by Muslim scholars has impacted civilization in multiple ways that has influenced society's way of living. And without the works of these many Muslim scholars, the aspect of living may differ altogether, as we wouldn't be living as we are now without the contributions made by our Muslim scholars. And for instance, this can be seen in education itself, as education might not be as advanced and modernized as it is now. And furthermore, infrastructure would not be able to cater the needs of people nowadays. Therefore, it is imperative for us to know and to also appreciate the contributions made by our Muslim scholars in the past and also in the present, in order for us to apply that kind of knowledge so that we will be more advanced when compared to the past. And furthermore, it will also benefit us more to understand how and why these contributions were made by our Muslim scholars. Thank you very much. I think that's all from our group. Thank you for listening.